Game over. It is game over.
Game over, cancer. I'm Val Solomon, Director of Program Impact at Cannonball Kids Cancer Foundation.
And I'm Dana Nichols, Executive Director of CKC.
Game Over Cancer, a podcast dedicated to exploring conversations about pediatric cancer research, solutions, and inspiring family stories.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to creating innovative treatment options for kids fighting cancer and educating for change.
By creating a space for these conversations, we empower the community to take action and provide tangible hope.
Game over, cancer. Screw you, cancer. Today's episode is so exciting. It's all about something brand new.
Something huge.
Something huge for CKC. This is the absolute first time we're talking about this publicly and recorded and stamped and permanent.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's totally happening. You've got to listen and hear what crazy idea we've come up with next.
That they let us do.
Today's episode is so exciting because we are going to, for the first time publicly, talk about something we've been working on and dreaming and scheming about for several years.
Yeah. I'm very excited about this.
We're excited. Your guests today are us. Oh, so buckle up for a ride of tangents and thoughts. But we start with a couple years ago, us having an idea and putting it on a Post-it note and being like, there's something. And I want you to be like, and here it is.
Okay.
Because you've been working so much on taking this idea, which we love, and we can talk a little bit about how we got here.
Yeah.
But this idea we love and turning it into reality that people are going to get to experience.
Yeah.
Ba-ba!
We're having a conference.
Let's have a conference.
Oh. Okay. So
But why?
Why? Okay.
How?
So in our work, oftentimes we are, pediatric cancer community can be smallish.
Yes.
And so we are often, interacting with other organizations, people thinking about starting an organization, people feeling overwhelmed about the organization that they've started.
Yes.
We all just network and share our knowledge. And so we thought that a conference would be, a wonderful way to capture and bring together everybody who might need to talk about fundraising in pediatric cancer, giving out whatever services they're providing or whatever funding they're providing, talking about process, getting that nonprofit experience and education, but within a community of pediatric cancer survivors, legacy families, things like that. So that's the why is lots of people want to do something after they have been diagnosed or been dealing with treatment and the aftermath of it. And sometimes that means they start a nonprofit. And so we are putting together a conference to help folks who have done that.
Yes. I think that it's so exciting because obviously a topic we're super passionate about, nonprofit best practices and all of these things. But in our world, we meet so many families who are thrust into our nerdy world that they never saw coming, right? And feel this obligation to do and pay it forward. And we respect and value that so much. All of the work in our field that has been done is because of families that feel the need to keep moving this needle. But how do you do that in a nonprofit space is sometimes different than what you thought it would be when you were sitting bedside and so grateful that your child was surviving. So what do we do? Because there's a huge gap of knowledge of best practices. And to your point, we're a small, not fractured because we're not getting along, but a fractured geographically group and by types of cancer and subtypes and experiences. So how do we bring everyone back together and really start working cohesively?
Right.
Or even find out where there's some opportunities to do that.
Exactly. And I think this as the other piece to this is why CKC, right? Like why us? Why have we stepped into this? And I think that this to me feels a little bit like when we decided to launch a podcast, right?
Yeah.
We are having we launched a podcast because we're having coffee, we're talking with people. Every time we learn something, every time we hear a shared experience, we have to leave and go back and think, how do I get other people to have the same experience and knowledge that I was just able to access? And so we started a podcast. And the conference, I think, really does serve a similar purpose. But I think where a podcast lets us get a little bit more in depth, have a longer form conversation about very important things, I think this conference is going to do that for our friends and family that want to come alongside a pediatric cancer nonprofit fight here, to be able to have community, to go in depth on those topics that are informing the way they're running their passion project, their nonprofit, whatever it looks like. And so that's really why we had a lot of experiences with people running other organizations who are like, we love your gala. We'd love to start one. And quite frankly, most of the time, the feedback is, that's a great idea. Yeah, do that. And from just a little bit of experience saying, oh yeah, do this first. That one's easier. That one's a little bit more difficult than maybe you're thinking. Or no, that's exactly usually what we're saying when we're consulting is, no, you're right.
I think that's right. Part of it too is like, when you're stepping out on a limb, just feeling some support, just feeling like, I think we can do this. And someone coming alongside and going, yeah, you totally can.
You totally can.
Or I think the other piece we find is people have this idea of what they should do.
Right.
Versus, what is the reality of that? And perhaps we have people out there who think they're supposed to start a nonprofit because that's what they're supposed to do.
It's what they've seen.
That's what they've seen. And they don't realize that there are other opportunities. Maybe you do want to have a legacy project, but you can partner with the hospital or institution that you found so much wonderful care and support at.
Right.
Maybe you want to have an event that raises money, but you want to give it to a partner organization that's focused on the very specific type of cancer your child had. There are opportunities here that can be making sure you're sharing legacy, making sure that you're doing all of these things you want, but without the burden of paperwork,
right?
Without the burden of creating an entire organization and structure that you feel like you now in perpetuity have to do.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of conversations that we find ourselves in. What if you've started a nonprofit and now your child is growing up and they're not as comfortable, or they're ready to move past this persona as much as possible publicly? What do you do then? There are a lot of unanswered questions as we have survivors growing up now in a way that maybe perhaps weren't as heard or in the past. And so there's all these avenues for discussion of, how do we do this work together that's the best for each individual family that's been through this and wants to do something, but now feels like they're doing everything.
Right. Yeah. And I think, the education piece for me in doing this podcast has been just the opportunity to speak to so many survivors and families. And some of them have nonprofit organizations that they've started, and some of them are very successful and driving millions of dollars into whatever service or that they're providing. And when you talk to them about what would you say to a parent who's thinking about starting a nonprofit, they say don't. Not everybody.
Our founder has been on this podcast saying such things.
But all that to say, come to a conference, be in community, make those connections with people, and try to get an understanding of what other organizations already do exist. And if you can partner with them, great. But if at the end of that you are thinking, wow, I've seen how the sausage is made now, and I'm still in this way because no one else is doing what I want to do. Great. Now you know what you're getting into, and now you have a network of people that can help.
And perhaps a few best practices that all of us have learned along the way can just get you a couple steps ahead to get started. And I think that you keep touching on the idea of like community and you're not doing this alone. in general, cancer, pediatric cancer is such a lonely road and a lonely path. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, to start an organization, a mission-based, any kind of project mm-hmm. is lonely and hard. And a lot of time we're talking about you and a couple friends, or you're solo as a staff person, and it feels lonely. Mm-hmm. And even when you get bigger, and I'll use my own job as an example, I work in the most welcoming, wonderful community that we could ever build with our team. And as the executive director, is lonely. Mm-hmm. And I think that finding spaces where people can come together mm-hmm. and can share burden, share passion is really, really exciting to me, of what it means when we come in, feel refreshed, and walk out the door at the end mm-hmm.
of it. And I just think of how important it is, even if you come to this conference and then you're going back to your lonely role, right?
Yes.
But at least you've met somebody who mm-hmm. maybe has had similar experiences to mm-hmm. you in the past, and can be like, oh, I remember dealing with that problem. Mm-hmm. Here's how I got through it. And maybe that's not your answer, but knowing somebody else got through it is very, very helpful. Yes. So I think all of that plays together, as to why we needed something that was focused not just within pediatric cancer as a community, but specifically on the workshops that we're going to be mm-hmm. offering are going to be about best practices in nonprofit. It's mm-hmm. really the stuff that makes an organization go from a passion project to something that is sustainable long term. Yeah. That's really like the heart and soul of how things, once you get a train going, how it stays going. Yeah. That's really what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, we're so excited. And so what does it look like then? We're having a conference. Mm-hmm. What does it look like? What can people expect to come be part of?
Yeah. The way I've been describing this to people who already know us mm-hmm. is, if you know CKC, we talk about difficult things, but it isn't a drag, right? So mm-hmm. I'm going to go to a cancer conference sounds like a big downer.
Tough.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But
we go to them. So
we go to them, and it's very difficult. And a conference can be very difficult. It's just a lot of stuff, and you have to pay attention, and you're taking notes, and you're you're getting inspired, you're making connections. It does take a lot of energy. So what we want to do is to make sure that it is informative, but we also want to make sure that it's fun and it's meeting people where they're at. So we are going to have, I don't want to give away all of my different ideas. Yeah. One, because I need sponsors that are going to help us pay for this stuff. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what we're going to have, but the idea behind so many of these things is that we want to make sure that there are breaks in the day. We're going to feed you very well. That I do know. We're going to have.
I care deeply about that.
That it's going to be in Orlando, so it's going to be a place that is easy to get to. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's local can just drive in. Mm-hmm. But anybody who is flying in, literally, we're going to be, right by the parks. It's easy to get to, easy to move around. It's where we're booking has a lot of walking availability as well. So lots of great resources in the location. Mm-hmm. But also we're going to have events planned in between workshops to make sure that we are giving everybody breaks and giving enough positive experiences that you feel fulfilled and not completely drained. Yeah. Drained for a good reason, right? Like you have so much fun and you get like so into what you're doing that you're like, I'm tired, but I'm coming back next year. Okay. That's the goal.
I love it. I love a goal like that for sure. I think that what we're looking for, and it's funny to say like it's a conference, but it's like not like other conferences.
I know that's how we pitch everything, right?
It's a cool conference. Yeah. I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. But I think, for people who know and work with us, we value deeply the experience that when we storytell families are having. And now we're saying this is a place for pediatric cancer families first and foremost. And so the experience that they're going to have is first and foremost everything we think of and do in a day, and making sure, I know you've been talking to lots of families like, well, what about this? Or what do you need? Or what would it look like? And really getting that firsthand information has been really, really important to you. I know, going through what does this look like as a conference?
Yeah. And that kind of makes me think maybe we should talk a little bit about the audience. Like, who do we think? Yeah. Who are we hoping will come, right? So when we first had this idea, I think for us to convene folks that can help with these things, we are targeting organizations that are maybe within their first 5 years, I would say, of existence. Yeah. Whether it's a 501c3 or if you're a grassroots effort of any kind, if you have full-time employees, great. But also if you are volunteer-driven, I think grassroots volunteer-driven, this is a great place for you. If there's an organization that is thinking about a pediatric cancer organization that's thinking about, leveling up in some way. Like, what does it take? What kind of infrastructure do we need for like the next 5 years? I think that's they're going to find a lot useful information as well. Yeah. I also think it's for families, survivors, legacy families who are thinking about starting a nonprofit, but they're not quite sure yet. So, Am I forgetting anybody? I feel like those are the biggies. Yeah. But just somebody, if you're associated with a pediatric cancer organization, you could be an employee, you could be a board member, maybe you're a founder. I am very excited. One of the workshops that I know we're going to have is called Following the Founder, which I think is phenomenal. And it's essentially, I think it'll be great if you're the executive director that's first in after the founder has left the organization, or if you're a founder and you're thinking, how do I put things in place so that when I'm gone, the mission lives on. I think that that's going to be a really great opportunity for people to get a lot of really good information. It's stuff that, we kind of know, but it's like, why live through the experience and make 15 mistakes when you could go to a workshop and understand it a little bit better, right? And make some plans. So
how do you share information? How do you know the pitfalls that a bunch of people in a room are going to go, yep, we've been through that. And to know that there's that shared experience. I think that's so much of what all of our families are fighting for anyways. Like, oh, I went through this thing. Heads up, this is horrific. Starting a nonprofit doesn't have to be the same way. And if we can all talk through, these are great things we know that work, let's move it forward. It's a really exciting opportunity. And I love the idea that it's also for people who just want to peek behind the curtain and get more information. Maybe it's giving you the permission you need to start, or maybe it's giving you the permission you need to not
and do something else. Okay. What else can we do, right? So we will have a workshop that is on just that. So all the different ways you want to be a patient advocate. Do you want to do advocacy? Do you want to have a passion project where you're fundraising for kids and families to have support items in the hospital? There's a million different ways that you can plug in. And we have a 3-time pediatric cancer survivor who's also in fundraising, who's going to talk about all the different ways you can do that. So, I mean, I'm getting chills talking about it, which is like the throwaway comment people say, but I actually do. When I think about everybody who we've chatted with and just saying, hey, we're going to be doing this. And they're like, oh my God, that's great. I know 5 organizations I'll send this information to. So we're very excited about that. I think the last thing I'll say on who is this for is we mentioned, if you're a family or a survivor who is interested in maybe starting, but this might not be a business trip for everybody is what I'm saying. So if you're a family and one person wants to come to the conference, but while you're there, the whole family, like the rest of the family is going to go to the parks for the day.
Because we live in Orlando.
Yes, so we will be very close to the parks.
Yeah.
And so I think there is an opportunity that you can bring your whole family. It can be a longer vacation for some folks. Our hotel has generously given us days on either side of the conference where you can still have our conference booking rate.
Yeah.
So if you want to come and bring the whole family and just one representative comes to the conference and learns a few things and everybody else is by the pool, great.
Yeah.
That's also an option too.
And I think that's a huge point. When you're saying learns a few things like that, there is real practical value that'll be happening here. And I think that's really, really important to touch on. It's so important that people are inspired and have hope and all of these big buzzwords that we know get us through our day to day. But we know that most people who would come to the table in this mission, they already have their passion. They don't, need another pep talk necessarily that doesn't have, here are the next steps. Here's real things we can do together, or here's the next things you can do. And I think that helping people really understand whether that's logistics or fundraising or data management, pick a topic, but there are so many things that go into making a nonprofit successful that are never what you've thought about when you think about what are we going to name it and what's our mission. And so all of those things that kind of maybe your blind spot that, really just need a little push and a few practical tools to get you going will be the, front and center at every session of the conference.
Yeah. And in that way, this is really, what it tends to be when you and I get together, which is we found people with, we're talking about an audience of people that we usually tap into to help us with passion, right? They have a direct connection. We know them. They really do fuel a lot of our work.
Yes.
And we have found that if we just talk about nonprofit, which is one of our favorite things, that is so helpful for them. And it's wow, we can really put, our organization together with all of these and really help push and move everybody's success.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting for me too.
Yeah. Passion is not the problem for anyone in the pediatric cancer fight. It is hard and it is long and we are all up against so many things.
Yeah.
And so for us, when we take a look at, what is in our control as an organization and how do we move a little bit faster together or how can we solve some of these problems together, that's huge because there is no shortage of will. And I think for any of our individual families, if they could bend the earth and bend the will of the earth to solve this problem, they would. And that's not the reality.
Yeah.
So how do we equip people with the tools they really need to go a little bit further and stay present and activated a bit longer?
Right. I think we've said it several times in this podcast, but everybody can all agree that we need to do better for kids with pediatric cancer. Once you learn what kids with cancer go through, it's not something you have to argue with people. And so I think we have people out there who are passionate. They have their own personal story, but they also have an entire population of folks who aren't going to argue that that's a really great thing to do. And so really you have to back up and say, well, what does stop folks from making more progress? And this is just an effort for us to get together and all learn from each other. And that, I think, in and of itself is going to be so valuable. But, we're all going to learn from the people that are coming to do workshops. But I'm really excited about one of the segments, which is I'm thinking about it like an Ask Me Anything, right?
Yeah.
But what the worst thing to happen when you go to a conference, and this has happened to me, but going to a conference with I need to have I have this one problem.
Yes.
And so I'm going to go to this conference and try to get information and understand how I can fix the problem. It's not a problem of will. I want to solve this. But not really getting the information that you need for your specific problem. Or maybe you get the general information, but you're just not exactly sure how to navigate it in your specific situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come up with a part of the conference that I think will help with that, where we'll have experts like let's say you have a finance question. We'll have a few finance experts and everybody with a finance question, 5 or 6 people can sit at the table with that finance person for 15 minutes or so and then move to the next one. So kind of like speed dating, ask me anything,
speed
kind of
problem solving.
Speed problem solving for nonprofits. Where, maybe you don't have something specific, you're just coming to learn and you're learning from other people by the questions they're asking the experts. Or maybe, you just sat in on this other discussion about events and you learned about diversifying revenue streams and now you want to ask somebody specifically how you would do that in your organization. There is an opportunity for that. So I'm very excited about just the many different ways we are offering people access to information about best practices for fundraising and for nonprofit work.
Why don't we talk about how this conference has a name, and we haven't said it. However, many minutes
said it
into
yet.
This. So tell me about what the conference we're inviting people to.
So we have decided to call it LINK, which stands for Legacy, Impact, Networking, and Knowledge, which we feel has been the cornerstone of creating pediatric cancer community. So it's going to be the LINK conference. And so everything really does boil back down to how are we providing folks interested in building legacy opportunities to make impact, to network, and to learn the information they need to be able to do that.
And it's not... When are they coming to this conference? They have plenty of time.
So
to figure out how to get here.
Yes. This conference will be at the end of May in 2027, May 26th through the 28th.
Love it.
So that does lead into, you have plenty of time to plan now. That does lead into Memorial Day weekend. However, remember, your room rate will stay It's insanely low. And you can stay at the parks if you'd like. Or maybe you want to come to the conference and then go back home. And guess what? You have 3 days.
You still have a long
3-day weekend after that.
Yes. So. We are really, really excited. And I think what keeps us going in this fight is that opportunity to be innovative, to see a problem and try something new. And so I just feel like this opportunity to dream about LINK, to think about what we want it to look like and bring it to fruition, I know has really put gas in the tank for us and the work we're doing. And that's before it's even happened. So when I think about the idea of us all being together and what that's going to blast off to be, it's really exciting. So
it feels a little bit like a watershed, doesn't it? Watershed moment.
It's going to be so good. So we want everyone to learn more about the conference and keep up with us. So what are the best ways to get engaged with that with us?
100%. So we have a page on our website called for LINK. So go to our website, cannibalekidscancer.org/link, and you can get the information. Until we have a little bit more lockdown, we'll just have the dates on there. But once we sign a few contracts, we'll be able to have more and more details. So please just check back. But by the end of this summer, for sure, we're going to have a whole lot on there. And also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And
about it there too.
And we'll make sure we're promoting it on our socials as well.
We are working all the time at CKC to make treatment easier for kids and their families, and our LINK conference is going to be another opportunity for that. This is the first time, but certainly not the last that anyone will be hearing about this.
If you know Dana Nichols, you know we've already had ideas for 2028 for this conference, so try managing that.
I know.
Is there going to be a workshop for me?
There's a workshop for how to say no to your boss about her crazy ideas. But everyone should go to cannibalekidscancer.org, learn more about the conference and what we're doing there. We are so excited about what's ahead in pediatric cancer landscape, and we will move the status quo.
Absolutely. And when you go to check out the LINK conference website, there will be a sponsorship packet available. So if you are interested in supporting this program, which this is probably like the most direct bang for your buck besides funding research directly with us that you can have on moving the needle in pediatric cancer research, the packet's on the website, and we'll have all of the information up there for how you get involved and all of your benefits. So please contact me me, check out the website. We are very excited for this event.
Yes. So thank you for listening to Game Over Cancer. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us and making a commitment to be part of our fight. As always, I'm Dana Nichols.
I'm Val Solomon.
And until next time, we will see
you later. Join us as we transform fear into courage and turn adversity into opportunities for change.
If you want to be involved in the conversations that create change in the world of pediatric cancer, take a moment, share, like, and subscribe.